Hola community, welcome to another episode of the Blender Today show, live from the Blender HQ here in sunny Amsterdam. How are you? How is it going? I'm by myself today, but with plenty of news. We have updates in the asset browser, user interface, sequencer, some nodes, some geometry nodes, cycles, improvements in performance, and a bit of everything. Of course, we're streaming live, so get ready to ask your questions. There is a thread already here on Blender.community on the website by the Cavelab. Thank you so much for making the thread, and there are already 4 questions, so I better get started. Thank you for the feedback and saying that the voice is okay, the sound is okay, the view is okay, the camera is super sharp, I think, even now. And I even have some guys here. Do you recognize this over here? Well, I hope you do. And if you don't, you're gonna find out at the end of this month. So in a matter of just weeks, because the Blender Animation Studio will premiere its latest short film, open movie project, Sprite Fright. When? October 29th. Yes, 29th. Right before, or by almost, Halloween, finally. It really, like, it's really crazy that the guy that this is happening, that this finally making it in time, as I think it's the first time we ever like say a date many months in advance, and it's happening. The everybody that is subscribed to the Blender Cloud, and it's that it's been around for long enough, for I think since January or before December on Blender Cloud, will have their name on the credits. If you didn't get the email and you've been on the Blender Cloud for long enough, in the here in the cloud on blog, you are gonna find instructions on how to get your credit on the film. So you know, at the end, with all your names, everybody has supported, like we did in the past. People that would buy the DVD would get a nice message about supporting the project. Is everything in the chat okay? Okay, cool. Okay. Next in the list, this is the main thing. I'll also save the date for the premiere. The premiere will also be in Amsterdam here the day before, on Thursday 28th. If you are in Amsterdam and you're a Blender subscriber, you're well welcome to join. Okay. That is, I think, all. Let's no, there is nothing else this week announced. That is like the big news. There is a new blog post, and actually the last blog post on the Google Summit of Code series. This one is about physics, the new physics visualization and adaptive cloud simulator that was part of the Google Summit of Code project. It's not yet in Blender, but there is quite some progress. There's some branches to test, and here you're gonna find this very nice article by Mario Habat that explains everything. So I think this is the most here you can see the most descriptive image for the static remeshing for cloud simulation. So this is how it started. This is how it's going. So whatever it's needed, it's gonna subdivide dynamically. I don't know why it's statical. Why is it called static? I should read the article. But yeah, here you can see the what those numbers do in how much do you want to remesh or not. So it should be really good for performance, but it has to calculate this, or maybe it's static because it calculated this before. You can read more here, and it's gonna send you to the wiki page. There's also this other project that was dynamic remeshing and sewing. So the sewing capabilities of Blender are being improved, so you can connect 2 parts of a mesh with each just edges and mark those as sewing edges, and it will get them together. And also based on curvature. There is the mesh analyzer tool. I guess this is more hardcore if you really want to see. Is this even part of Blender? No, probably this. I don't think this ships in Blender. It's like its own app, but it's to preview all kinds of math stuff. There's also display simulation data for rigid bodies and cloth. Look, you can see the effects on physics and the different forces that affect the objects as they go in real time. There is also collisions. You can see when they collide. If you are not sure that are those objects touching or which side of those objects are touching, you can see it with this super neat visualization. So this should, and this one also for constraints, and this should make debugging your scene much better. So great when we have this. I hope we can do this with other parts of Blender. It really helps to see what's going on. I think we should do it for geometry nodes as soon as possible. It was part of the agenda at some point, but yeah, there was also other things to do, and we needed mockups, and it's really needed. So let's continue with the first update of let's start with the title of the show. So the asset browser is the one that got the most updates this week. Some of them I already mentioned over the past weeks, but this week I think it's coming together. Why? Well, because now, for example, you can see that the assets now, the asset browser is going to show all the assets indirectly nested inside of the active catalog. What does it mean? Well, that when you're in a file browser, you can see, if you select a folder, you can only see what is inside that folder, but you cannot see what it's inside in a regular file browser. You can't see what it's inside the folders inside, so like nested. In the Blender as the browser you can, and I actually made a little file here to show you which file. Actually, I didn't make a file, I made a library. So in the here I'm gonna convert my, we need to update the layout, the templates to include the asset browser by default. How would it, I don't know, would it be annoying to have always here in the layout, to have always an asset browser? Maybe we should need a specific asset management. I don't know, because maybe not. Maybe it's not a good idea to have it right now, but when we have built-in assets, when Blender comes with like a human head, a wood and glass materials and that kind of stuff, built-in data, I think that would be a good moment. So okay, I have my scene here, and I have a library, the default one, which is broken. I had it before, but I moved the things around, and so it no longer exists. And it's cool that it tells you about that. I should be able to delete it from here though. I don't know if you hear, but I'm preventing the curtains from going up and blinding me. The library that I have here, catalog, I don't know if you remember, but last week I showed some with the light here. We were playing with the catalogs, with the new catalogs feature, and I was adding a bunch of catalogs, and I couldn't do much with them because it was not possible to do much. You couldn't rename them. You couldn't yeah, the UI wasn't great. So this week that has changed. First of all, I don't know if you noticed, but the here, I don't know if you noticed, but now the library itself, it's no longer in the header, it's on the sidebar. So it makes more sense because these catalogs live inside of this library, right? Or of the asset library. So it makes sense to have them connected. They are part of it. So they're almost part of the tree. The only downside, I think, it's that you need to, if you want to change, you have to expand this first, but maybe it could be an option that when it's collapsed, it doesn't show or so. So yeah, here, catalog. I have one catalog that is a chair that I can add my own chairs around. And this, I should name it something else, right? So I should name it to like chairs. This, it shouldn't, if I reload, you see, it's gone. So this is not gonna be saved. It should be prevented actually. If I save this and then I reload, it's saved it over there on the asset library, and this is a bit of violating the principle that libraries should not be overridden outside of their library. So I can't add more assets into this library because it's in an external file. So I can't, if I make any asset, if I have a monkey and I want to make it an asset, right click, mark as asset, it's gonna be an asset but part of my internal my current file, not the asset library that I'm working here. So yeah, that is one thing to keep in mind. I think the next step will be to add a button here to save. So to save the catalogs and to be able to yeah, to tell when you're about to lose some data. Like if you rename and you name all of your catalogs a million times and then suddenly you did something and it refreshed and then it's gone. So that's something to keep in mind. The materials, they all work. Like this is awesome. You can just drag and drop your scene, and I can actually just have in render view, I have a plane. So this is what I mentioned before, is that in the catalog now, this catalog system now works as in, you can see all and you can see everything inside. You can see materials, and it's gonna show you whatever is on the material level, but also inside. So both brick and stone are gonna show when I'm in materials because they are inside. That's super cool. The same with the world. I want the world, bam, it's there. I want to have stone pavement there. So cool, so cool. And yeah, it all just works. Let's see, I have a pavement monkey here. What if I think I don't want the scene world because it's not super good, and when I rotate it around, this looks so easy. So I hope Blender can ship with this soon. So how do you edit this? You can edit, if you want to edit a specific material or asset like the chair, you can, there is a shortcut. Ignore this part for the time being, like all this data that it looks complex. It's just for the developers for the time being. But if you, this is gonna go away or it's gonna go to hidden somewhere else. I think it's also shown only if you are using developers. No, it's actually always there, but it's in the experiment. Anyway, it's gonna go away. You can edit this. You can click here. It's gonna open a new Blender with like the same Blender that you were using before, but here you can just browse and edit your library because this is the library. So if you go to the asset browser here, and this is gonna be current file here, you can just basically start selecting, and like this file is awesome. This file is by Carlo Bergonzini, monorender. This is fantastic. This is like a place to go scatter, find. This is attribution, so you have to give attribution, but like this is awesome. I want this bookshelf. Okay, so this is our bookshelf now. You can go right click, mark as asset. It's gonna show up here. Then the same for the books. I want this book. I want this big boy. Bunch of books. More chairs. I have chairs. Let's go grab this another chair. The table. I want the table. Mark as asset, and then I want this ink bottle. Yes, I want it too. So I have all these objects here. I can just save my file, close it, and then here I'm gonna be able to just update in my monkey file. I can update, and then I have everything. I have the books, which is very small compared to the monkey. I have, let's do the bookshelf. It's also here. My monkey is a bit giant, but the fact that you can just do that back and forth is just amazing. So very quickly you can just download a file and start building your own scenes from here. Ideally in the future, the goal is that when you are dropping an object, for example, you can start in in like in a object placement mode, so you can more easily like snap it to a surface. It's not there yet, but it's planned. This is fantastic. This is awesome. And again, you can drag and drop. Like for example, let's make a new catalog called furniture. And I don't know even if I wrote it correctly, but let's put everything in there. Furniture. So now everything is part of furniture. And it's not it's not of course, because I am it needs a whole bunch of warnings because I'm moving things of catalogs, and I don't think it's even. Let's do a new one. And then I move it here. Nothing happened. I save the file, reload, and it didn't do it. Okay, so I need to build this catalog system. So yeah, no. We need to work on this. You can create new catalogs, and they will be saved. So when you refresh, it's there, but you can't move things in here. Yeah, well, actually, Blender doesn't tell you, like, there's no tooltip about moving in here. It should just show you a forbidden or a prevent, something to prevent it. But if I want to do that, I need to open the library here. I grab all my stuff that I consider furniture, and then I move them into this will be saved, and now they're here. That's cool. Everything that has to do with, for example, I don't know if you remember, but last week, this plus button wasn't here. It would only show on mouse over. Now it's always there, so you can see, you get a hint that like that's how you add new catalogs. They also show up on mouse over on each one of the catalogs. And once if you want to rename something, which is not possible, you can double click or you can right click rename. I don't know if F2 works. No, F2 is only for the object, but it could be added that if you're in this context, F2 could rename catalog or an asset if you can. Then deleting catalogs is also available here, and creating a new one. Right now there is a double message because it's the pop-up, but that's pretty much how you do it. You save, close, and then here, when I closed it auto refresh. Nice, that's a nice detail. Cool. Okay. It's really good, especially since it's free. That Blender is really good, especially since it's free. Free as in freedom, you mean, right? Because there are many things in life that are also free, but not free as in freedom. The main thing about Blender, the coolest thing about Blender is not that it's free, that it's open source. That you can do anything. Because there are things that are also free, but you cannot study them, open them, share them, like debug them, like make new ones of that. Unlike with open source. Next in line, I think I covered everything for the catalogs. Let's switch topics. Let's go into a few video sequence editor updates this week. We have a bunch of updates actually. If you go to the video editing editor, there are some things that you will see immediately as you start using it. So I'm gonna make here a couple of let's do a couple of strips, and I don't know if you noticed something. There is a 2D viewport cursor in the sequence editor. There is a. Do you recognize this guy? So for people that hate the 3D cursor, they're not very friends of 3D cursor. Now it made its way into the video sequence editor. Well, because now the strips can have a they can be moved, they can be transformed, right? This was added a few weeks back, but the fact that you can now just basically, well, by default is in the sample tool, which I think it should be the tweak tool or transform even, I would say. But so you can select. By default it's sample, but I think it's just a legacy, and we have to remember to update this before 3.0 comes out. So yeah, now you can just click, you can drag things. You click, drag, Yes, you click and it selects, but then you click drag. This is also a bit weird. There are some behaviors to fix in here. When they're overlapping objects, it behaves a bit weird. But thanks to thanks to Campbell, we have this new pivot point that you can choose from here to the cursor, and then all your transforms will happen from here. So if you have selected two objects, you can use the pivot point to transform. You can also hide this with the overlays. You can disable the gizmos, the navigation gizmos, and the active tool gizmos. So if you have, for example, these arrows and you don't like them, the same behavior that is present in the 3D viewport, it's here. So super welcome for consistency. There's also overlays. You can draw the image outline, metadata, annotations. This was there before, but the image outline, it makes things easier to find what is active and what is not. Once you have that, you can choose the new transform tool that when you it's a bit offset. Oh, I think it gets confused with the pivot point. Okay, let's ignore the pivot point. If there is any developer watching this, write this down. Okay, let's go with bounding box. This one should work. Yay, bounding box works. You can click on the corners to scale. You can rotate from this weird toggle. I think it should be in the corner, but that's for another day. You can click in the middle and drag, scale, rotate, or just use the keys. I think the keys is the fastest. You can also have new you can use the shortcuts that you're familiar with in the viewport to select and deselect. So control click will switch, and then shift click will add to the selection. This transforming gizmo disappears when there's more than one object. It's not implemented yet, but the shortcut still works. So if you want to move multiple, you can. Once I have this, I want to do everything. I want to have like a Shift D for duplicating and A for selecting. I think A is not implemented yet, but it shouldn't be too hard to select everything or not. Trackbar rotate, yes, there is. So you can press R twice and it's gonna rotate trackbar. It looks weird because it's in the it's in the sequencer, but I don't know if I have some images here to have some videos of myself probably, or recordings that I did. Yes. So this is me testing stuff before the live stream. Oh, do I have thumbnails? There you go. And yeah, the trackball rotation works, but it's a bit weird. Alt S works, Alt R and Alt G. That's cool to clear rotation. That's neat. It's pretty neat. The next improvement has to do with performance. The team here, the Blender Animation Studio team, has been using the video sequence editor for editing the entire film. Actually, one of the limits that it hit was with the 32 channels that was upped a few weeks ago, I think, to 64. And now, because of that, because you can add more data and more data, with the thumbnails, it was reaching the limit. Computers with even like 64 gigs of RAM, they were running out of space of memory because of the thumbnail rendering. Not anymore. Now the creation of thumbnails is a bit more efficient. It's freed more often. So what used to be around 60 gigs of memory, now it should be a few hundred megabytes, depending on the movie file resolution, codec, etc., says Richard. So super welcome that. Performance improvements. And what else? Actually, while I was showing this feature, I don't know if you notice up here, there is the concept of a fallback tool. It made its way into the video sequence editor. This was already available in the viewport, and what it means is the fallback action that will happen when you click somewhere else in the scene. So for example, so if I use my tool, I'm transforming, but if I click somewhere else, there is another tool that will happen, and this is what you see here. This is the fallback tool. So it can be either the active tool, tweak, select box. So if you have select box, it means that you can still use the active tool, rotate, do stuff, but when you click away, you click somewhere else, it will use this tool, the select box. It also works when you're clicking inside, which I think it shouldn't. But yeah, so many little tricks of usability that all of this can happen now during, these are fixes mainly. So this is not bound to the limits of Beacon 2/Beacon 3, which should happen next week, by the way. Okay. Let's see what happens in the chat. We're getting rated by Blender Oi people. Why? What do you say that? Is a lot of Spanish going on? Blender Oi is Blender.Today, but in Spanish. I do it after this live stream, but I don't see any Spanish speaking. I see some Portuguese, but not Spanish. They are completely different. How can you mix Portuguese and Spanish? Okay. Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to tell the difference, but it's like, I remember when I just moved here, I couldn't tell the difference between German and Dutch writing, but I can totally tell now. Those little things. Time to see more updates. Context menu, yes, there is a new, I mean, it only has one option so far. It's renaming. So you can rename the current strip from the preview. So, you know, you have right click here and you have right click here. This, I mean, it doesn't look as exciting, I know, it's just the one option, but the concept of having a preview here is awesome. We could have like transforms to clear the transforms from here. You could do like Alt G, Alt R. We could do duplicate, scale. What else? Opacity, sliders. I don't know. Anything. Let's continue. So that was the sequencer selection. Yeah, preview selection. This is what I mentioned before, that it was, now it follows more like the 3D viewport object selection. You can toggle deselect, select all, supports the legacy selection behavior, and the supports by selecting the center in the preview views by holding control. So the origin, if you hold control here. It is really hard, there you go, to move it. Okay, time to change topics? I think so, yeah. Okay, well, this is gonna be a short one, but in the geometry nodes corner, we have a new node and a comeback node. Let's see. The new node is called Align Euler to Vector node. This commit introduces the Align Euler to Vector. Wait. Pronouns Euler. Here.
Euler.
Okay.
Euler.
Align Euler to Vector function node, which rotates to a body into a given direction. The node replaces the legacy align rotation to vector node, which only worked on an attribute named rotation internally, so very hard-coded. The Euler in the name is meant to make it clearer that the rotation isn't interchangeable with a regular vector. So here we can see, thank you Jared for providing a picture and an explanation of how it should work. There are people trying to say, it's not Euler, okay, Euler. Similar to hola. Hola. Awesome. So yes, hola. The hola node. I already forgot. Euler. La O-I-La. Okay, like a mix between today and hola in Spanish. And hi. Okay. that was like the new node, but there is also a comeback. You probably missed this node a lot if you do geometry stuff in geometry nodes, because you can now delete and separate geometry in the new system, in the geometry nodes fields. So yeah, awesome. Use a copy of the geometry, delete geometry. This is a copy of the old node in the legacy folder and updates the node to work with fields. The invert option is removed. No invert option, because it's something that should be very easy with fields and to be consistent with other nodes which have a selection. There is also a drop down to select the domain, because domain cannot be determined from the field input. So you can't really tell if it's faces, vertices, edges, etc. When the domain does not belong to any of the components, an info message is displayed, a warning. The separate geometry is a more general version of the old point separate node. The inverted output is the same as using the delete geometry node. So yeah, awesome. Thank you, Juanes. Congrats on getting one of the, well, we still have one more week actually to go to add more stuff. But these people have been requesting this one a lot. So possible things to change, add an option to smooth mask. Oh, that would be cool. It's probably best for a dedicated node. Yeah, good point. I think that's all for the geometry nodes section. We have some more updates. I'm almost done actually. Let's go through some user interface changes. While we are in the topic of nodes, so in the geometry nodes, or actually anywhere in the nodes, anywhere where there is groups, when there is like a let's do a group here. So I don't know, well, I'm using my custom theme, but if you probably remember that when you were inside of a node, the background will be green. Like, do I have an old version of Blender? Let's see. Well, yeah, well, I have 2.7 here, and this hasn't changed much, I think. Well, the color was probably not so bad, but if you had nodes here, now the material node wouldn't work. If you had, wow, it's so different. Okay, this background color. In 2.8, the theme in 2.8 became more saturated for node groups. So the thing is, under the hood in the code, Blender will use this color for the group, like your user pref, and it would be shown here. So actually, how was it the shortcuts? Control U, Control Alt U? Yeah, Control Alt U. The worst shortcut. Okay, I'm gonna try to replicate this here. Node editor group nodes. So if you remember in Blender 2.8, this was the color. In order to highlight this node better, this color changed, but this is more or less how it looked. So this is terrible. It's really bad. And I did change this color, but when this happened, I wasn't feeling empowered enough to go and change the code of the. I didn't even think about changing the code itself. I just knew I didn't like it. Now we can actually go in and it's not the color is not going to be there anymore. How do you tell that you are inside of a node group? Well, there is two things. The main thing is that you have a breadcrumb here, which will be worked on. There are some patches already that it's gonna make it look more like this breadcrumbs. So you see the name of the object, the modifier, and then the node tree inside. So it's gonna be much more readable and clear where you are. The other thing that has changed is that if you notice, the background has changed slightly. It's a bit brighter, and if you keep going in the nodes, you're gonna see that, well, there is a limit, but there is a slight change in the how bright the background is. So it's going to be brighter the more you're in. It takes the background color, so it's still themable. I have my own theme here, but which I think I have saved. Let's see. Let's save again and reset. So this is how it looks by default, the theme. And if you zoom in, you see that it's brighter. But I hate this grid. Doesn't make any sense. Why would you have this kind of grid? Anyway, we're working on that. We're working on it. I think that's it. I think that's it with the geometry nodes. Well, with nodes in general. The other change, actually, well, wait, there is one more change. Let's see if I can open this one. Let's see if it's too heavy for editing. Erindale, this file has a lot. I remember this because it had a lot of frames, and the problem with frames is that, well, the frames drawing in general here, it was the transparency was kind of hard coded under the hood. Now it will use the color that you set, the alpha that you set. So you should always be able to have like fully opaque if you don't want to see through, and it will be transparent if you want it a bit more subtle. So this setting was completely ignored in the past, and not anymore. Now you can have fully opaque nodes. That's something that I made in my new nodes changes here that I'm playing with, is that to make them always opaque, the nodes, whereas in Blender 2. Like the current Blender and Master, it's still transparent always, no matter how transparent the transparency level you set. It's a bit annoying. So yeah, the other change that I've been playing with today, I don't know if you noticed. Well, maybe it's in another. But this is actually unrelated. Actually, I think I'm not gonna mention because it's gonna be confusing. But yeah, basically I'm playing with a change that what if the color was gray here, but when you zoom out, it becomes the color of the node, and the buttons go away, so it looks like a minimap. It's experimental. It's not in master yet. Of course, I just mentioned it was playing with the code. Somebody asked how to get rid of the grid. You can get rid of the grid now in master without any, like from time ago. If you just set the grid levels to 0 or to, yeah, if you set the grid levels in your theme to 0, the grid is gone. And it becomes 2.7. No, kidding. Okay, what else? Okay, this is a tiny thing that you're not gonna notice until I tell you about it. This fix, it makes it so the icons, the superimposed icons, what are those? Well, you may have noticed that some buttons in Blender have a picker, like a selector. So let's see. I think in scene, yeah, for example, the closing, this button, it's now it can have tooltips. Before it didn't. You also have it for, I don't know, for camera, for example. If you want to set the camera distance, I think we have that over there. Yeah, this little guy. Now it can show you what it's gonna do, and it also can be dimmed, grayed out. So yeah, you wouldn't have noticed if I didn't mention, but it's good to have it. The other change, okay, let's talk about a bit of potpourri. I think I'm almost done. Potpourri. 2 performance improvements, improvisation, improvements in cycles. The first one, fully decoupled triangle and core primitive, blah blah blah, BVH. You don't care about that probably. You probably care about having reduced peak memory usage on all devices, so less memory peak, you know. There is the average memory that a renderer takes and the peak memory that when it goes to the top, which is a moment where things can crash if you don't have enough memory. So that is reduced. Better performance on optics and MBRI, so CPU mainly, and a bit worse for CUDA, but better for optics and MBRI, so it's a win, I would say. And the other improvement had to do with volume. I read online that there were some problems with cycles X and volumes. Like the moment you enable volume, there was some memory stuff. This has been solved memory regression reported in some commit. Wow, 40% and twice as much memory was the report. So thank you, Eric Klein, for remaking the report. So detailed and even, oh nice, look. So detailed with a file, with using the Barcelona, using both, step by step, the version of Blender. So cool, thank you. This takes time, you know, to have good bug reports, but the fact that there is this kind of good bug report, so like reported on Thursday, and then some feedback on Friday, then on Saturday, and bam, this morning, fixed. Awesome. Wait, no, it's still open. High priority. Our best Imagineers are working hard on bringing this to the attention. Okay, so partially, part of that is addressed. So cool. Okay. That is all, I think. Wait, no, one more. There is an add-on, and this is an add-on. There are many add-ons. This add-on, the Edit Linked Library, it's an add-on that Jason Van Gamster made many years ago. Many people contributed to it. Basically allowed you to do similar to what you can do with the asset browser, that now you can, for example, if you have what I mentioned before, that you have an asset that you want to edit, you can click here in the like tool icon to open the blend file. Well, this concept, it was implemented for linked libraries, so node groups from proxies, from characters in a node, and actually in an add-on, and it was actually shipping with Blender for a long time ago already. Edit linked libraries here. So once you enable it in the sidebar, you should see the edit link library, and if you have something that is linked, it's gonna let you open it there. Super cool. Let's see if I can link. No, for materials, no, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to show it here if it's linked, and then you open the library. Maybe. Okay, time to wrap it up. All the updates have been shared. Let's see if I manage to answer some questions. 23 questions. Okay. Let's get to it. Have some water. No mate today. Let's go to the others. What? Oh, here. Final Flasher. Hello, Pablo. Nice to see you. I want to ask if it's possible to have selection slots layers in the compositor so that we can append comp nodes. Selection slots layers. What do you mean? So we can append comp nodes. Selection slots. I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing something. There, I'm gonna blind myself a bit. Layers in the compositor. Render layers. So like node groups. That would be the best in the compositor or anywhere in Blender to have node to be able to drag and drop node groups. But to put them in a selection slot, I don't follow. Also, in modifiers section, don't you think most buffed up guy there is now in geometry nodes is overpowered there? Yes. Well, it's a very big. It's a modifier that can be other modifiers inside. So yes. Also, can we fuse comp with video sequence editor, or maybe something better is in planned already? Well, this might. Well, oh wow, how would this work? Well, first of all, it's not so easy to do because there are two different parts of the pipeline, how Blender is built and designed 26 years ago, but 27 years ago now. But and now that I think of it, with the new viewport compositor, how would that work? Because then you could render. Oh wow, you could, because in the sequencer you can have scenes. Would that come with a maybe it would be a good time to bypass that limitation. That would actually pretty neat. Let's see what else is the new. Let's see if I can. I want to move myself to the side because there you go. I'm doing some crazy live editing. Okay, there. H.264.25 is a nice codec to have. What do you think? Well, everything that comes with Blender, with FFmpeg it's there. I don't think I compiled with FFmpeg. I did. There you go. So everything that Blender that FFmpeg supports is Blender is gonna support it. So I don't think H.264.5 is enabled, but there are similar ones like Web. I think Web P is very close. VP also 8. Hex Bob says, "Hola Pablo, hope you're well. I'm doing great. Maybe one for Hans if he's in the chat. I'm not sure if I see him. If there are any, I'm curious if there are any discussions, ideas of exposing an API for geometry nodes in the not so distant future, either to allow users to easily add their own custom nodes with a bit of more functionality than regular groups, or simply to support script operations while in the node tree. Perhaps on top of this, and with the new text nodes being added, is it a multi-line string node, a possible multi-line string node?" Well, you can use a special character. I don't think we even have any kind of multi-line widget in Blender. Like there's no multi-line in Blender anywhere. You only can do it in the text editor. Nothing else can be multi-line with like all the text fields and stuff. So, but in geometry nodes you can already do string. If you get a string, for example, if you get 2 strings and you want to convert a string to curves. So for example, you want to have a string Blender and then string today, you can actually connect those via join strings. Oh, the remind me that the node wrangler has to be updated to connect strings. So join strings allows you to connect these 2 strings, and then you have both things there. And if you want some space, you need to use a special character node that allows you to have line breaks. So the line break, I like how I made a okay. No, there was a moment in the zoom where I couldn't see the line break. So if you use as a delimiter, you can use, you can have multiple lines. But no, it's not in one single widget. So yeah, that's the only issue. Okay, so next. Blender Bob says, "Hello Pablo, how can I connect a weight paint value in the distribute point density factor in the new system? Also, did you get a chance to ask around about beam mapping?" No, I didn't, sorry. And how can I connect a weight paint value in the distribute point factor in the new system? Distribute point, I haven't checked this lately, these 3 points on faces for the factor, for the density, you mean? Well, you could just expose it here and then use an attribute here. Use the set a vertex group. Oops. Set a vertex group there. Yeah, weight paint, weight map. Hello Pablo, very nice to hear about the nomination. Nomination? What did I miss? I also noticed that the coffee run is the 13th Blender Open Movie, but Sprite Fright is branded as the 13th Open Movie project. Is it a reason or is this a mistake? Well, depends on how you count. Elephant Stream, Big Bug Bunny, Sintel, Tears of Steel. Cosmos Laundromat. Well, here's when it gets fuzzy, because you could count Caminandes 1. Okay, let's count all of the other. Well, Caminandes 1 wasn't really an open movie, so let's not count that one. It's not made by the Blender Institute. It's made by a group of people that happen to work at the Institute. Okay, so if that one doesn't count, then the next one would be, yeah, Daily Dweebs, 6. Coffee Run. Agent 327. Caminandes 2, Caminandes 3. So it's already 10. Spring. I think I'm well, if you count the first Caminandes. And Glass Half. So if you don't count the first Caminandes, you count Glass Half, the 13 is Sprite Fright, I think. Okay, next, let's see. Oops, sorry. Can't wait for Halloween. Also, when will you submit your UI changes? If they get into 3.0, will be by far one of my favorite changes. Thank you very much. Well, I have started the process. Yesterday, I spent my Sunday afternoon and night updating, taking some of the changes that I had on my branch, my UI changes branch, and I've put up the patch about updating. It took me some time because I had to split everything into smaller patches, but and it's the first time that I do this. So I have this, for example, where you can see the evolution and these new panels. There is also another patch for the menu item roundness. So the items can now have a specific roundness. So by default will be like this, but then you could also do this if you like, or square like it used to be. And yeah, many of those like that. It's hopefully gonna be on the review, and if I manage, hopefully it's gonna be, I will really like to be part of 3.0, because it doesn't make any sense to have 3.0 looking like 2.9 and then 3.1 suddenly looking different. It's like doesn't compute. Next question by Bab. Sorry. I'm curious about the future of baking. Are there any specific plans to bring it up to date with the rest of Blender? It seems like it has gotten updated since 2.6 something in functionality. It would be really cool if in some way texture painting became part of sculpting. They have similar feeling tool sets for sure. Maybe there just needs to be a total texture workflow overhaul. I think you are correct. The baking is tied to textures, which is tied to an entire section of Blender that it's a bit forgotten. Well, forgotten. Nobody wants to work on it. Basically, no developer was like, hey, let's work on it. You know, the people that are paid by Blender Foundation, they're mainly focusing on keeping Blender stable, so bug fixes and triaging, and the developers that are more experienced are focused on their own sections, for example, on their own modules, such as Cycles X, for example. That's where it came from. Or the UI team, or the nodes. Like Jack Luke is so involved in nodes that it was natural for him to be there. Needed help, so Hans is there. So everybody is super busy, and no one really, I don't know, maybe it's not feeling empowered to go and take over it's such a big task. Touches everything from rendering to tools, interaction, user interface. You can imagine the huge size of this project. And if it's not done right, you know, it's gonna end up like the texture node editor that no one uses. I certainly wouldn't mind a dedicated texture painting baking workspace, but it feels they should be brought together, maybe along with sculpting. If baking had a home workspace on its own, that would solve the current workflow, where baking is a clunky output for one thing at a time. I've been actually baking this weekend. No, not real life baking, but baking cycles, but normal stuff. for a personal project. It could be made non-destructive with a cache visualizer and persistent per object settings like a simulation cache, but for storing a baked texture, almost like a proxy, that gets updated when settings are changed. You look like a great candidate for being part of these updates. You know, if you have experience with this, we also have other artists that are involved in modules, but the more people the better. The more that you can have, like this for example, where you're not just saying make baking better, you're coming with specific ways to improve it. It's like, oh, maybe the current workflow, which is already clunky, could be a bit less clunky if it had its own workspace, or adding, like you mentioned, specific features. I think this is very constructive comment, so appreciate it. Maybe it could be a geometry node output. Whoa, you've been thinking out of the box, including new stuff that outputs an image data block by comparting two meshes with a cage. Okay, that's a bit far-fetched, but the upside of an orphan old module is that they have so much potential. Yeah, because it can be completely nuked and start from scratch. And developers love to start things from scratch. You know, every new developer will be like, no, this doesn't work. I'm gonna make it from scratch. Now you can, because this editor needs rework. But you could say something about the particles. The particle system in Blender also hasn't been updated since forever. It's been like end of life for the last few, well, all the 2.8 era, no updates in the particle system. Yeah, you could say that about many areas in Blender. Dynamic paint. When was the last time that dynamic paint had an update? Yeah, the sequencer, until a few releases ago, the sequencer didn't get any love. Sculpting, before Pablo decided to work on it some 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So yeah, let's be patient. Time will, like, the more people that see these videos and see that help is needed and wanted and appreciate it, the better. Every year there is students coming out of, you know, computer graphics careers and like universities. What are those? Or people quitting from those jobs and wanted to join an open source project. Okay, let's do 5 more questions. I'm completely talking too much here. Say 5 more questions. The character hero says, hi Pablo, how can I transfer a scene to you in Blender demo files? Are there any criteria? There are a lot of likes on this patch, but it does not fully work in Blender because there were problems with the code. So, okay, how do you transfer these? Well, first of all, make it available somewhere. Just show your file, maybe make a YouTube video showing about the file, and then make sure that it fits one of the sections that are already in the download demo files. And then just reach out, just join Blender chat, and Blender.chat, the people are there all the time. Usually these files, they have to be updated. Like for example, right now, many of those are outdated, partially also because they, yeah, especially geometry nodes, because they need to update it to the new system. I think the flower scattering is very soon to be ready to be replaced. So far, all of these files, they are not using fields yet. So the more files that we have, the more that needs to be updated. So yeah, there is a lot of likes on this patch. Let's see. Destructive extrude operator abandoned. Why is it abandoned? Yeah, I know this got a lot of love, but you know, this is also a bit confusing. This is not confusing that people love this, but the problem with these tokens, the reactions, is that they are for the entire task. So if you started with the wrong leg and you had a lot of issues and you get a lot of sad faces, and then you fixed it, the reactions are still there. So maybe you fixed everything and it's the best patch in the world. You're adding all the features that everybody wanted, but you still can see a lot of bad reactions. This feature, I don't know the current state, to be honest. I don't know what happened and why hasn't it been abandoned. This patch is replaced by, hey, this is actually replaced. I think it's just confusing people to keep it open. So I'll close it. It makes sense. So there is a new patch. and it's from September, from last month. So I would say the future is bright. I mean, if it's replacing the other, then it should be fine. Especially it's only a month ago. And it's been a busy month with 3.0, Beacon 1, Beacon 2, etc. Will the default theme that you fix be available by default in Blender? And will your dark theme be included in the official release? The default theme that you fix. Well, I want to propose a new theme, which is basically just how it is right now, how it is the current one, but some hints a bit darker. The overall contrast should be the same. I think the Blender default theme has a good level of contrast. It's visible in, like, when you work at night, it doesn't bother too much, and when you work during daylight, it also doesn't bother too much. The problem with darkening it too much is that in the broad daylight you can't see anything. So yeah. Oh, we make Blender aware of the time of day and then just swap between light and night, and the light and dark. But yeah, I don't know if we should include a 2.9 theme in 3.0. You know, every theme that you add has to be updated, so it adds to the, yeah, to the work. How many questions? Okay, let's do 3 more, because they are here in the view. Hello, Pablo says, hello kid, when do you think the UI module will have a new head? Are you guys currently looking for someone inside or outside the Blender Foundation, and the devs are already working on it? Now it's quite some months that the UI module is headless, and I feel it's quite an important module that deserves someone to give a direction. Currently, the process of accepting UI changes feels a bit scattered. Well, when is gonna have a new head? I don't know. I think no one knows. No one really stepped up and said, okay, I want to. I think we need someone experienced, someone even outside of the community that can provide some big picture. But for the time being, it's we're working without a head, but I think it's progressing, because it is more about polishing right now. You know, it would be great to have someone that comes and just sits down and works for a month in designing the new brush management system and texture painting and texture baking entirely with mockups and stuff. But yeah, we I don't know, no one stepped up. I mean, Blender is a really public project, so I hope someone will step up. For the time being, we're doing what we can with what we have, which is the small team that we are now, with Julian, with Harley, with Hans, myself, Dalai, Francesco. So everybody's chipping in a little bit in their own modules. I like the UI and theme. I like the widgets system and the theme. I also like to use tools and stuff, but I don't have enough experience with other software to see what it's Blender lacking. I only have the experience that you give me by telling me what is wrong in Blender, and I use that a lot. I really pay attention to everything that you comment and say, and what's wrong and what's good, and yeah, what could be improved. But yeah, to answer that, not sure yet. Okay, Findus, no, it's a very small thing, but the different fav icons on DevTalk compared to Blender.org, a Blender wiki, trigger me every day. Yeah, right? They are all different. Blender.org. Yeah, that's my fault though. Like, I wish I could work on the Blender UI for all the time, but I'm also working on the websites. But yeah, that has to be fixed. Hey Pablo, can we remove the object name size limit of 64 symbols and increase it to 128 as it was done for strips? For the object names, wow, that I don't know what are the consequences of that. I hope it doesn't, but it sounds like it will have a lot of implications everywhere, but I don't know exactly. Anyway, something to discuss. Maybe it's easier to just drop by the Blender chat and say, hey, is there a reason why Blender objects name are limited or not? Maybe it's just from the 32-bit era. Okay, I'm way over time. Let's wrap this up and go full screen and center maybe a little bit. I have to get another microphone so I can have a guest and have the microphone a bit more centered. I hope you had a good time today. It was not as feature packed as other times, but I managed to open Blender, show you a little bit of the catalog, the video sequencer, and I kind of enjoy doing that as well. Maybe not trying to pack so many features in just the one episode, but do less features and just showing them next week, for example. This week I didn't save any, it's just that there were not so many updates, but I didn't save the features for later. But having more feature focused, having a developer dropping by. I wanted to have Julian dropping by today, but thing was having a bit of a cold. He tested negative everything, but I don't know if I'm ready to be people next to people with colds. How fast this hour goes by. Let's do it again next week. Same place, same time, same place here. I hope you like this new setup. I have to make it nicer. Look at the boring. Paint that wall, do something, and I don't know, make it nicer. Give me ideas on how to make this nicer. Christmas lights everywhere. It's gonna be here. We need some Halloween stuff for the later this year. I want to have a Sprite Fright plushie. So far, I have one mushroom. Remember, end of the month, Sprite Fright. Hope you had fun. Watch your headphones, your ear holes, because in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, this is gonna be too loud, way too loud. Sorry. I wasn't too bad. Okay, volume up. All right. Okay, thanks everyone. Have fun, blend away, get the experimental versions, report backs, enjoy. See you next week. Bye.